So as the school district superintendent had hired me and told me that he was going to pay my company, I now was able to get the company name GOMO Educational Services. I want to make sure that I identified as educational services. Now, this was back in 2017. It's actually 5 years.
Right.
And the reason why I didn't do much prior to 2 years ago is I was actually working at Rutgers. When I left this assistant superintendency, I went off to work at Rutgers as a higher ed administrator. And my role was actually working with school district partners and the higher ed faculty, which is in the same sort of zone, the same sort of space.
I got
so
you.
I left that to the side after doing that contract. And therefore, when the pandemic hit, the institute or center that I was overseeing at Rutgers Grad School of Ed was closed because of the pandemic. So then the dean said, it's all your intellectual property, go out there and do it, there's no conflict. And then that's why I've been doing my work since then, and just really rebranded GOMO and have been hitting the ground running.
Man, first of all, I just want to say that the whole way they got you to the name is like the dope story. That's one of the dopest stories.
It is.
So shout out to your wife, because that's basically, she's basically the whole inspiration behind GOMO, you know, her, and then the car that actually got you to be able to see her. And so I think that's dope. And also, I think it's, you know, just the whole journey. So that time at Rutgers, that kind of, because it was the same space, I imagine that kind of helped you even further understand and develop the program that you're currently doing.
Yes, because I'm in the same space, but I have now expanded, obviously much more knowledge, experience,
right?
But even fully building out the brand and my team. I didn't really have as big of a team at Rutgers that I have now.
And you know what? And just for our listeners and our members, can you just, because I know we touched on it and you've explained it so eloquently, but just so our listeners and our members are clear, what is the actual description of GOMO?
Sure, I actually didn't say it yet. So
okay. Well, there you go.
The work or mission of GOMO is an institute that provides PD and executive level training to anyone and everyone that deals with children, both directly and indirectly. And our vision is to become this premier PD institute looks about empowering agency and voice in adults so they can do the same for children. Cut and dry.
Wow. Now, is this a focus? Is this just children. Education? Does this focus on a particular group, or it just education, period?
Education, period. So it doesn't matter if it's K-12, which is pre-K-12, higher ed, or even adults agencies. So if you're dealing, and even more so, there's businesses that we deal with that are not specifically education, but then they sell education products. They're servicing school districts. So we actually work with them also.
Nice. Now, you know, education obviously is something that's very important. But obviously, you know, your experience can differ based on, you know, where you're at geographically. What do you feel is the main difference in the educational system, you know, let's just say like in the suburbs as opposed to the inner cities? I mean, you've had a little bit of experience with both. So, first of all, you know, since you do have experience, so what would you feel, maybe one or two things that would make an immediate impact in the assistance of, you know, that would help better the school districts, you know, the school system, especially in the inner cities, and, you know, one or two things that could impact possibly immediately or maybe impact it over a course of time?
First and foremost has to be the expectations. I remember sitting for an interview in a Mercer County school district, I would say about applying for a principalship in 2011. And they asked me the same question. What is the difference between suburbia? Because that was in suburbia, and they saw that I was in an urban school district. I think I was in Elizabeth at the time, as principal. And they said, what is the difference between suburbia and urban school districts as far as kids? I told them my response was literally expectations. The adults don't expect the same from urban students as they do from suburbia. And that's one of my goals, is to really push people, and I've always done that, to expect the same and sometimes even more from the urban than the suburbans, because people already expect you don't, that you can't do it or you won't do it. So once they come in and you have the high level expectations, they don't know anything different because it's all high all the time anyway. So the second thing is opportunity. There are things that people in urban school districts, I would say more of those, again, more now than ever before, since the pandemic, but prior to, there wasn't the same kind of opportunities. In certain school districts, just even the one school district, you have two sides of the railroad tracks. One could be getting everything in one area from that whole pathway, high school, elementary to high school, and the other one doesn't in one school district. And they're treated that way also. So it's like, what kind of opportunities, and some things that even like space. One area could have everything and the other one has nothing. So that's one area between urban and suburban. And the last thing is access, meaning not just giving me the opportunity, but you should let me see it so I know there's hope. But if you don't give me access to it, I can't get to it, then it's like, now I feel hopeless. And there's a psychological term called hopelessness. And once people keep saying like, I see it, I see everyone else getting it on that other side or over here, but not for me, what's the use of me trying? Because it'll never happen to me. So those are those three: higher level expectations, opportunities that people can truly see, and then access to those opportunities are the three areas between suburban and urban areas.
Now is your GOMO program, is that designed or in mind with tackling some of those issues that you just, those solutions that you just mentioned?
That is correct. That's all under, I said, my vision. Nice. Building agents, building capacity so people can have agency and voice in that, because some people actually don't know, or their systems are not set up that way. So then one of the things we do is we help you dismantle your system. We help you show you how your system perpetuates these, is called inequalities, which means that the haves and the have-nots, and it's all under structural inequality. So what does that look like? We'll show you. We'll help you. And then therefore, once you start breaking that, dismantling that, and realizing that, man, we were perpetuating these structural inequalities, what do we need to do? Now you're taking those next steps. Now, the challenge is, this is real deep work. It takes work. There's going to be a lot of time that's devoted. Not everyone is really willing to do that.
Right.
And this goes beyond politics. Politics is enough now. People have been losing, lives have been lost, generations are at risk. So how do we break that? And that's how you basically do that.
So let me ask you a question. When you're talking about things that are systemic, what challenges do you often face when we're talking about systemic problems in education versus, like a kid just doesn't go to school, attendance problems? That may not be so systemic, but then like you're saying about these inequalities of opportunities, for example, what are some of the challenges that you face when you're talking about dealing with challenges in education that are systemic?
One thing could be a policy. Policies written where you have a execution of both, could be something positive and something negative, but it depends on who's getting it. And then if someone has some sort of power and privilege, they're able to supplant or overcome the policy where someone who doesn't, and they constantly getting punished. Or there's things that are endemic to intrapersonal and interpersonal, means that the policy is written to be able to try to help people, but it's just your own personal bias and discrimination is what's causing it. And the policy just allows you to continue to circumvent that. So
excellent point.
Now, what we do is we help those three different spectrums of bias, discriminations, and it's, again, intrapersonal, what is within you, interpersonal is from people to people, and then institutional is all now systems. And once people are able to see that, then you can address those individuals and how people come together, and then the institution, that's what helps the work be sustainable. Because otherwise, if you just address an intrapersonal, people are working themselves, but they don't know how to interact with others, and they don't know how to translate that back into their system. Right.
Because if you do it that way, that's right. But how are we going to help him and everybody else? Or how is he going to be able to help? Now you learn that, how are you going to be able to help everybody else?
That's correct.
Right.
And then remember, I said it's work because you can't change people. People have to see themselves. And this is where, to me, the word of God comes into play. Because you have to, what our work is really to start changing true hearts and minds. in 2 Corinthians, and one of the pieces where it talks about Moses, and I can talk about the word of God, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Sure.
It talked about how the Israelites, even though Moses came down from the mountain, they saw the fire and Moses's physical start changing. Like they saw the fire, so he had to cover himself so he couldn't scare the people off, the Israelites off.
Mhm.
And even though they did, they temporarily changed their behavior, but it was not permanent.
Mhm.
But yet, with the Holy Spirit coming afterwards, and then now, because remember, the word of God was inscribed by those tablets were inscribed by God's fingers, or whatever, it was just inscribed by God. Like it should have seen that power. People don't do anything, but what the Holy Spirit does, it inscribes the work of the Lord in your hearts. That leads to permanent change, and that's ultimately the goal of GOMO. We want people to be permanently changed because of the light the Holy Spirit brings them, or their spirit, so they can change their hearts and minds for the good, for the betterment of people.
Man, it sounds like a twofold battle, because you're fighting the individual to get them to change the way they think about things, and you're fighting the actual system, which is twofold within itself. Like you were saying, there's the opportunities, but then if you have a certain mindset, there is a space for that helps perpetuate that particular type of mindset that you have. So let me ask you a question then. Like, so how do you feel about like the affluent or people who were well off that were caught up in a couple years ago when they were, like paying for other people to take their child's SAT and they were getting in these good schools by saying for example that my child was on a sports team, knowing that the child wasn't on the sports team. Then I even think about 3 or 4 affluent people went to prison behind it, or were at least found guilty behind it. So what about that particular nuance? How do you factor that into what's going on out here as far as certain challenges you face in education?
Well, the fact that right now the 3 of us are people of color, or the BIPOC, we've always known it. Some are able to clearly articulate these things taking place. So that's part of the inequalities. People of a certain skin color have access to everything, and there's others who have to work harder for it, and still, even though they have everything, still keep getting fought. And a perfect example for me, and then I'll answer your question, is I have the experience, both elementary, middle, and higher ed. I got my doctorate. I have all this other things. You know that I still get denied in certain places? Everything that America says, society says that you're supposed to have. I have all those, and yet I'm still a threat. Why? I'm doing everything you say I'm supposed to do, and I've done for years. Right. So it's the same that's going on for these children, as we were saying before. Some are going to have access. We understand that. Some are going to do things wrong that have this power and privilege, but they can, first of all, keep it undercover, never come to light. Whereas someone who's of a BIPOC descent, whatever it is, like, they're getting punished more than anyone else and have less access to those systems. The biggest thing for us is to be able to see and educate and talk about empower, agency, and voice, that we as BIPOC individuals do not perpetuate that.
Yes.
In some cases,
yes, to
survive, we've had to. Yeah. But we're saying now we need to stop.
Yeah, that's
we understand what was in the past.
That's right. That's right.
In the past, but at the same time, how do we stop it? Because we're halting or thwarting people's futures. And I look at this, and I tell people when I'm in my trainings, I'm like, when you deny someone else, especially what they can contribute, you're denying the world of a gift. It could be your gift or someone else's gift. And why do we need to stop doing that? And again, I look at it as spiritual gifts.
Yeah, that's right.
Spiritual gift that someone can't take away from you. Don't deny the world of that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I look to be able to exude that through other people and model that, so that they can see that it's like, look, I'm only working to my purpose right now. What the Lord had for me is exactly what I'm doing. I'm having fun. Yes, it is stressful, but at the same time, this is bigger than me. Yeah, I do have a lot of sacrifice I have to do, but for this, but it is for that greater goal of spreading that word and spreading God's love.
I love what you're saying personally. I love what you're saying because to me, because a lot of times, we're great at identifying the problems, right? But what I love is, you've expanded on the problems, but you've come right back with the solutions. And I say this all the time. Like I personally think, especially in our Black and brown communities, man, we're past the blame, you know what I mean? The problem stage. We're like, we need to focus, we need to jump into the solution stage and focus and stay there. Like we know the problem, we all know it. And once now, okay, now that we know it, now it's time to attack it. You know what I mean? It's not time to be like, oh, whoa, it's me. No, it's like, okay, now I know the problem. Now I know how I can attack the problem to make it, turn it into a positive.
But
And
see, I think so on the real, like some of us don't know how to do that because you know how to do it.
That is true.
Doesn't mean that everybody knows how to do it. And that's just the dichotomy out here. Now, it may be a false dichotomy that I'm presenting, but the reality is that you have those that only deal and get stuck on problems. That's part of the challenges that he have. How do I get them to not be stuck on the problem and let's work towards a solution? And that's why I think that's a twofold challenge, because there are some people that is their strengths is being able to identify problems. And then you have some people whose strengths are, I'm a problem solver. That's what I do.
Yeah.
But I think in this world, you kind of need both in order for it to come to that great conclusion. That's just the majesty of, this divine world that, the benevolent king made. Like, it's so many different ways you can even look at the problems, the solutions, but, good, bad, up, down, left, right. But these things all need to exist for everyone to have their own particular space, because in this divine majesty that the benevolent king made for us, everyone has a place, even the dog.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
You know what I'm saying? In his heart. So I get what you're saying, and that's certainly a valid point,
Yeah, that's well.
I totally agree with it. As you stated, there's some people who only know about problems, and then they get stuck. What's great is the fact that networking, partnering, collaborating now gives you this opportunity, so you're not just stuck in one space with just one point of your perspective, and it allows you to see some strengths from other persons. So one thing about me, like I can write, but I'm not the greatest writer. So I can call upon someone, you're a greater writer. Hey, this is the things I'm looking to do. I've already started this, but then can you enhance it for me? There are people who say, like, I have ideas, but I'm not a great as far as leading it, and I don't need to be. So they make a call me like, hey, Josue, I see how you lead these kind of projects, but this is what I have in mind. Can you take this to fruition?
Right.
That's how we collaborate and be able to do that. So again, they got a problem. In some cases, they just keep looking at the problem, but it's like, how do we expand? To me, this is what this, since the pandemic, there is more collaboration now than ever before, because people are not just staying there stuck in whatever morass that they're in. No, we can move, got to find other people with some other different strengths, experiences, and let's start expanding in different markets.
Yeah. And have you found that thought process valuable as you've gone into now, business ownership, with this program? Have you found that to be valuable? Exactly what you're saying about partnership and relationships and things of that nature.
Without a doubt, relationships is key in everything you do. Because if you're in business, it's not about selling. It's the best relationship you can actually get with not just current, but even potential clients. That's what helps grow your business. So you may be like a finance person, but then you're not that great in marketing. So by finding someone in marketing or finding another company that does well marketing with your business savviness, that makes a great start to business, or there's other areas.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, given your experience, what do you see as like maybe the top 3 needs, children of color and Hispanic children specifically, but children overall? Because at the end of the day, I really think it's about children overall. Now, yes, there is priority to that, but at the end of the day, it is about children overall. So what do you see as some of the top 3 needs that children of color, children of Hispanic descent, that need in education?
So that was the question I asked from Anthony. The access, the expectations,
Mhm.
the opportunities, and then access.
Mhm. Thank you for reiterating that.
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
certainly appreciate that. So for
Definitely.
all the members of the Entrepreneur Chamber who didn't catch it the first time,
That's
you know,
right.
Dr. Josue Falaise was very kind enough to you know, reiterate it to us again. And I certainly appreciate that, man. And
That
you
was excellent
know,
how you said his name too. I think you have a little French in your background there, young brother.
yeah. No, poquito. That's Spanish, but I'm gonna just say it, poquito. You know what I'm saying? I actually wrote it down the way, not the way he is spelled, but the way it's announced or pronounced. So
Right.
I just wrote it, you know, like that. But anyway, man, I'm just going to skip down to like my question number 6, because I think this is the perfect time for it. And I literally see why, just based off of everything you said today, why the state of New Jersey highly recommended your, you know, as a principal, your model for principals in the state of New Jersey. It's not hard to see why they said, nah, your model, because I mean, it's so well thought of. Like, you're just saying things in different angles that I don't think most people, you know, think about. So do you want to kind of just talk a little bit about how the state of New Jersey, you know, highly recommended your model for other principals in New Jersey?
So I think you're referring to a time when I was principal, it was nearing the end of my principalship. I actually was a principal of the school for 6 years. During
Okay.
those 6 years, I trained on something called the Connection Action Roadmap. So it wasn't my model. I want to make sure that's clear.
Okay.
Connection Action Roadmap
Okay,
is
okay.
a framework of thinking to develop. It's called high performing learning communities, or PLCs,
Mhm.
through team development and relationships.
Mhm.
This comes out of the New Jersey Principal Supervisors Association, the New Jersey Department of Education, and NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. There was a partnership, and I worked for them for 9 years.
Mhm.
So I was one of the implementers of this work at my school, and because it worked so well, we became like a model for when things were going great. Hey, why don't you go to Dr. Falaise's school up in Roselle and see how this implemented.
Mhm.
I mean, I would get phone calls. And as a result, there are commercials and videos as far as and then you'll see not just my staff, but even me, my staff and I deal with the how do you do this like in your teams when you meet. And then I did the leadership part of it also. That's what you're basically referring to. It's implementing best practices that have been research based so that people can see it in action so that they can go and execute themselves.
Wow.
Wow, that almost sounds like you can use that in business. The way you just framed it, like, sounds like you could take exactly that what you just said, like, and just put it right in business also.
That is correct. And
Wow.
it is a business model.
It's
Okay.
business, right. Wow. So
That's awesome.
and this was when you'd say you were a principal at a middle school. So was
That is
this a
correct.
time when you were saying that you were going around kind of training other principals? That's
That
kind
is
of
correct.
that's what this is. Oh, okay. Wow, man.
That is correct.
That's incredible.
So I was
Man.
a full-time principal doing
That is.
consultant work. And then because the work was so well at my school, it also became a exemplar that people would say, hey, we want to see this. We have questions. You come to my school and actually see it in its implementation. So I'm not just like, you can come visit. My door was always open. I'm not hiding anything.
Right.
So anytime you want to come in, you want to spend a day, and as long as I'm there, you could see it working. And my team would show the evolution of where we came from to what we're doing. And that's why I was one of the considered state models.
Wow, that's a fantastic. Hey, for the Entrepreneur Chamber members and our viewing audience, let's tip our hat off to this man. I mean, that's
for real. That's incredible.
Something that needs to be highlighted. And you know, you often hear about different stories in the world of different people, but man, your story and that alone, I just think that that's fantastic, and that's something, you know, like they could literally probably write a movie about, you know, your educational experience. Like, it might come out as a movie 50 years from now, man. But yeah, that I think that's awesome. Now I know there's a difference between what college students learn in classrooms versus what actually happens in the classroom. You know, how do you bridge, or how do you advise people to bridge that divide? as to what actually, their expectation is, what is going to happen in the classroom versus what actually happens in the classroom?
So that's actually our GOMO's company's tagline. It's called Bridging Research and Practice. Usually in college, you're learning more about theory, and in school, you're actually performing the practice. At GOMO, we do both. So, but we work with the adults, not with the kids directly, not yet at least. So, but I see universities, again, I would say maybe even a little bit before the pandemic, because the state, at least the state of New Jersey Department of Education, realized that there was a challenge, one, in getting more people of color in the school system. So one is the adults don't reflect the students that are teaching in almost all the school systems. And two, the practice they're implementing also didn't reflect the communities that they're servicing. And colleges are trying to do that. New Jersey Department of Education is fully aware that they've been creating systems to be able to handle that. But it's the pipeline, which means the colleges and universities, the people that are still coming there still don't reflect the kids. So it's like they got to figure out something different on how to do that. And they've now designed those systems for that. Again, now it's just how do we bring in, one of the pipeline issues is they're looking at middle school students, start getting into education, but it's not the middle school students that of people of color, that BIPOC characteristics, so that they can start coming more into the teaching profession to be able to help service people that look like them in their communities.
That's, man.
I heard you say BIPOC. If you would, what can you elaborate on that?
Yeah.
What is that?
Black, indigenous people of color. So it's everyone under the diaspora.
Okay.
So you don't have to say Black and Hispanic, but it's or Black and brown. You're saying just BIPOC.
BIPOC. Man, I never heard that before.
Well, there you go, members and listeners. We got a new word out here. BIPOC, because I didn't know it. I don't know if the members or the listeners did, but I did. I'm going to start using it. How about that?
BIPOC.
Man, I felt like this was a classroom session, man. Like you took us to school today, man.
This was,
pun intended.
I'll tell you, man, this was dope. You know, we have we have one last question we always ask our listeners, but before I answer that last question, I think I want to ask this question, especially for some of our members and our Entrepreneur Chamber podcast listeners. Do you feel it is necessary to have a college education to be in business?
Negative. I actually even start turning people away from college and universities because it is a business also. In some cases, or in most cases, especially in the past, it was to bring money to certain groups of individuals that already have privilege and have access to, as you said before, all you do is write a check and you get into college, and then that college you get into gives you access to all these other and opportunities to all these other things that you already had your whole life. And everyone else who can't, they're building all these student loans or put money in and then losing it and still not be able to get a job because of their name or where they live. So what, again, since the pandemic, it's really shattered a lot of things. Is there are jobs that don't exist yet, that people are finding skill sets and creating new spaces, and then having it become a career. And once you're an expert in that, people are going to pay you for it.
That's right.
So you don't need a school for that. And then also you didn't waste the time. You don't have to waste any money, and you're automatically getting into your space. And now you can start growing, not just business, but all access to things that people don't even know that you now are becoming an expert in, and they're paying you. You set the price. So that's what I basically pitch now. Like for me, even though, to me, like I would say I can still get back into K-12, maybe become a superintendent somewhere else. But to me, like why I got into this, now this goes back into your why.
Right.
That's what's going to drive what you do. When I became a teacher, initially it was always, let me help the students in my classroom. I want to be able to change them. Just for me, come in contact with them, I'm going to change their lives, literally. They just come in and just start transforming.
Right.
When I became a principal, I'm going to do the same thing for the adults and the students. Right. When I became an assistant superintendent, I'm like, I'm gonna start doing that for the whole entire district. But now as a business owner, I actually work globally. And my goal is for people to see God's light shine through me.
Wow, powerful, man.
That is so powerful, man.
Yes, sir.
And,
yes, sir.
That is like, what else can we say? And there you have it too, like all our listeners and all our members. This man right here, his educational background is like about 10 pages over here, man with a doctorate, and he's telling you, and no, you don't need to go to college if you're trying to get in business. But what you do need is you're going to need some knowledge, and you are going to need someone that's going to help you in that transition of learning that business. So you might not need a professor or a teacher, but I would always suggest, and I always would make the recommendation to go get yourself a coach or someone who's willing to, pour into you and train you. Man, I just personally think that this has been an excellent interview. To me, this has been like an awesome interview with you, Josue. The way you've expanded on your answers, the way you've made really kind of even had me thinking some of your perspectives are very unique in how you approach and how you look at education. But we always like to end with this question that we ask all our listeners, and we normally it's the top 5. Okay. Now we normally pick, like we got a lot of people like hip hop. We want to go like rap or music or movies or places you've been. But you've been so eloquent today, and your doctorate is going to allow you to be able to pick choose the topic today, young man. So whatever topic you like, whatever topic you want to pick, and what's your top 5 in that topic?
I'll pick movies.
Movies, nice.
Good one.
I like movies. I like movies.
Okay.
So
my
let's
top
have it.
5 in movies.
Yes.
Oh man, I'm not ready for this, but my number 1 is actually The Color Purple.
Color Purple.
Wow. That's
nice.
The number 1 movie of all time.
It's a great movie.
Number 2 is Forrest Gump. Symbolism.
Forrest Gump. There's a lot of symbolism in that movie.
3, Crash. With Ludacris.
Oh, I know Crash.
Yeah,
yes. I know
that
Crash.
has
Yes.
real world
yes.
Applications.
Yeah.
4. Ooh, those are my top 3. I only talk about the top 3. 4 is gonna have to be ooh. I gotta pause there.
Okay, top 3.
I wasn't ready.
Yes, it did 3. So don't worry about it.
That's right. Top 3. It's all good. Those are 3 great movies.
Right. Those are 3 great choices, man. So I just want to say, thank you personally, man, for what for your time here this morning. I think it was excellent. I think it was very informative. I mean, I don't know about our members and listeners out there, man, but to me, it's like we had a high level conversation on education today, which I personally and grateful for. And I just want to say, man, thank you on my behalf. I know I is going to, give his closing remarks, but I just want to say on my behalf, man, thank you. I thought this was an incredible interview, and I really appreciate your thoughtfulness and your honesty and your perspective on this particular topic.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not going to add too much more to that. I think I got out of this about the relationships that you have to build along the way, and allowing you to humanize, because sometimes when people see Dr. Josue Falaise, and now they get to hear the thought process and the human side to you, and what makes Dr. Josue Falaise. And those are always the parts of these interviews that I appreciate. And you're just another guest that we've brought on that just put the people first. And it's no surprise that you are successful or going to be successful, Lord willing, but, and just walk that positive path, brother. And, I appreciate you, man, because like I said, educators, I think they're just some of the greatest people on the face of the earth, because they're teaching one of our most vulnerable groups, which are the children. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you for the work that you're putting in on behalf of all children, but specifically disadvantaged children. And I forget the term, man. I apologize. I should have wrote it down. The children of the diaspora. Can you say that again?
It's just diasporas. The African diaspora is just anyone who's of color or the BIPOC.
The BIPOC. That's the word I was
BIPOC.
looking for. Yeah,
Okay.
man. Thanks for putting in the work for the people of the BIPOC, man. I salute you for that one. Thank you, man.
My
So
pleasure.
we're gonna let you, man, we're gonna let you close out your remarks, and please let everybody know how to get in contact with you. And you know, we'll certainly have it on the subtitles. But you know, certainly let all our listeners and all our members know how to get in contact with you and how to get in contact with your great services that you're providing.
So I want to say thank you to both of you for, first of all, giving me the opportunity to be here, to share my story, to share the story about the work that we do. I really appreciate you seeing the value that my team and I, the service that we offer to people, seeing that great value and then talking about it. If you would like to know more about our services, you can go to www.GOMOEDservices.com. That is GOMOEDservices.com. You can reach out to me via, it's called contact@GOMOEDservices.com. Again, contact with CONTACT at GOMO, GOMOED services.com. That's via email. You can also check us out on social media. Everything at LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook is at GOMO EDS, all consistent.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, there you have it. All our members, all our listeners, we've learned a lot today. First of all, first off top, we learned, man, don't lose your culture. Don't let anybody out here try to diminish your culture. Be proud of your culture. Be proud of your name, no matter how long or how hard or how much accent you got to pronounce, like certain brothers over here. You know what I mean? And we also learned the word BIPOC, which is a word that I didn't know. So right off top, you did two great things that I think everybody's is gonna be blessed with. And as always, you know, we like we always like to say to all our members, all our constituents, all our friends, and all our listeners, you know, continue to please help empower us so we can help empower you.
Peace all and be victorious.